Hi, it's Emily Leiphart of Art from the Heart, and in this video I'm sharing a Paper Smooches magnetic scene card, an idea that was inspired by one of my son's projects. He was inspired by me first, and then I was inspired by him. I love when that happens.
After my mom made these Valentine, I decided to make a magnetic Hampsy one. This is Mommy Hampsy, this is Baba Hampsy, and this is Buntskin. I drew rodent houses and a garage too. You can move the hedges around. The Buntskin can be in the big spot. The big person can be in the big spot. See how the Buntskin has a big heart and the Mommy and Baba has a small heart? The Buntskin even has a little magnet. The end.
This is the Deco Bag Die. Just like the grocery bag die, it's perfectly sized to hold gift cards and is so easy to assemble. 3 score lines are embossed on your cardstock when it goes through your die cutting machine, so all you have to do is fold along them, apply adhesive, and you're done. Here are 2 examples of the bag when assembled. The one on the left is from 80-pound cardstock and the one on the right is from heavyweight pattern paper. What I love about this shape is that it has a zigzag along the top. There's a small flap that you can fold down depending on your use and design. I'm starting with a white A2 base that opens from the right. The front of my card is going to be quite layered and heavy, so I need it to be able to stand up. If I opened it from the bottom, it would slide open too easily and not stay upright. I'm going to use a panel of blue cardstock for the sky. Next, I'm going to use one of the Borders 1 dies to layer a couple of hills. The bump on the left is a bit too high, so I'm going to trim some off the bottom edge. That looks better, so now I'm going to die cut some clouds using the clouds dies. Next I'm going to die cut my son's 3 favorite animals from Posse Icons, the turtle, hamster, and dinosaur. His favorite stuffies are also these 3 animals, so I love that they all happen to be in one set. Now I take the coordinating Party Posse stamp set and stamp the coordinating images onto the die cuts. I'm using Memento Tuxedo Black ink since I'm coloring them with Copic markers. I start with the hamster in neutral colors since he's the smallest and easiest. It's been a while since I used Copic markers on video. When I started collecting these, I bought Chow markers, the round ones, because they're cheaper than the sketch markers, the oval ones. The Chows also hold less ink, but I eventually buy refills for the colors I use often and run out of. I'm leaving a white section on the underside of the dinosaur because my son's Diplodocus has a white chin and belly. I wanted to replicate him. As always, I start with the lightest shade and add darker shades in smaller sections. Then I go back over everything with the lightest shade, pushing the darker color into the lighter sections. There are 3 instances where I use the Colorless Blender. 1, if I have a white section like I do here. 2, if I've gone outside the lines and I'm erasing that mistake. And 3, if I add too much color and want to remove or lighten it. Ripley's Aquarium opened in Toronto this winter, and my son has brought home a stuffed turtle on 2 occasions. They're both pink. Again, I wanted to replicate his favorite turtles. After coloring, I use a Copic multi-liner to fill in part of the shell that didn't stamp properly. It looks like there was a piece of dust on my stamp. Before assembling all the layers on my card, I'm going to add a die cut sentiment using the Hello Word dies. I'm going to use wire snips to separate all these, and I'm carefully cutting the pieces as close to their sides as possible. As I explained in a previous video, you will want to snip off the separators by cutting each one as close to the edge of every piece as possible. This may seem tedious, but it's a quick process. Not only does it keep you from getting scratched, it also keeps your die lines clean and crisp in case you use them to dry emboss your cardstock. I'm going to use the stitched high on the front hill panel. I'm using masking tape to hold the die in place as I run it through my Big Shot. I love the details on this die, and I want it to stand out more, so I'm going to swap out the back panel of hills with dark green cardstock. To make it easy, I'm going to use the original panel as a guide. Now you can see how the darker green provides a nice contrast between the blue sky and front hill panel. The scene pieces are completed, so I'm going to choose a piece of pattern paper from Pebbles Yours Truly to die cut the Deco Bag. The one I've chosen is light pink with cute little dark pink hearts. Assembly of this bag is super easy. I just fold along the score lines and use my bone folder to flatten the flaps. Before adding adhesive to the two flaps, I want to add a custom sentiment on the front of the bag using the mini monogram stamp set. I line up the letters on a grid block. As I explained in a previous video, I trim off any excess polymer from the fronts and backs of the letters so they can be placed as close together as possible. That way they look perfectly spaced as if it was a single stamp instead of several letters put together. In my Valentine's Day project, I stamped the entire phrase at one time since I was stamping it multiple times. Here, I decided it would be better to stamp the words separately. I always do a trial stamping on scrap paper to make sure the letters look the way I want them to. Not only was the T crooked, I had to move the letters to the center of the block to get a better impression. When the stamping is all done, I can apply score tape to finish the bag. Next, I take self-adhering magnetic sheets and cut pieces to adhere to the back of each panel. I spread out the pieces on this example, but if I were to make another version of this, I would cover the entire panel with magnets so the individual elements can be attached anywhere and not just in specific spots. Here I'm moving some of the magnets over onto the grassy panel because I realized that the bottom of the blue panel would be covered with the grassy panels, and that's where the magnets need to be. As you can see, I used foam tape to adhere the panels to the card base. If I used entire sheets of magnets, I could just adhere score tape to the magnetic sheets and the card, while heavier, wouldn't be quite as bulky. I think it would be so much fun to create a more permanent shadow box scene that could be changed each day with different elements depending on one's mood. After adding magnets to all the panels where they're exposed, I used 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch circle punches to create magnets for the animals. I thought that the white clouds were too plain, so I recut them from silver glitter cardstock. The back of this cardstock is very slippery and smooth, so I used my X-Acto knife to scratch up the surface before adhering the magnets. I also die cut a gold sun from Spectrum Icons. You'll see me swap the white clouds back in because I couldn't decide which ones were better. After doing this a few times, I decided to keep the flashy silver clouds. Later, I also noticed that the 1/2 inch magnets weren't strong enough, so I had to swap out all those for 3/4 inch magnets. The big cloud was also too big, so I die cut a second small cloud. Finally, I can gather all of the elements and place them inside the deco bag. I wasn't quite sure how to adhere the bag to the card so the recipient would know it was an interactive card. I thought about stapling and tying twine to it, but in the end I decided it would tuck nicely into the front panel and snap against the sky panel with a magnet of its own. So here's how it would work. The recipient would open the card and pull off the deco bag. They'd pour out the pieces and position each animal, sun, and cloud where they want. I had a lot of fun playing with this one, and I'll definitely be making more because I have a feeling my son is going to claim this one. So here's my finished magnetic scene card. It can be as simple or as complex as you like. The possibilities are endless. Please refer to the supply links below if you're interested in any of the products I used in this video. You can also visit my blog for stills and more information about my cards. Thanks so much for watching.